Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Love Fruit podcast. And if you want to follow us, you can go to fruitfest.co.uk or UK Fruit Fest, and you can follow those pages on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. And we also have a YouTube channel for UK Fruit Fest as well. And the festival takes place this year from the 26th of July to the 2nd of August. And you can get in touch with us if you're interested. But today, what we're doing is carrying on with our Love Fruit podcast series, where we try and basically speak to raw vegans and the people that would be of interest to raw vegans. So hopefully, we're doing that and succeeding with that, and hearing the story of how these people changed their diet and ultimately became a raw vegan, and what advice they have to everyone else, and what mistakes people are making, all these kind of simple questions. And that's what we do. So we've got a whole load of interviews. If you want to watch or listen to them, you should be able to find them fairly easily. And you're welcome to get in touch about anything. And if you think there's anyone we should interview, you can get in touch as well, even if that means yourself. Anyway, thank you for listening to that. And I will get to our guest today, and that is Jamie Love. On
Sorry, I'm clearing my throat. Hi.
what is and on Instagram, you can find Jamie Ageless Beauty or you'd probably find Jamie under Jamie Love. And Jamie has been involved in a number of interesting things, including hosting the LA Raw Food Meetup and also a recent initiative to promote and get people to host raw food meetups all over the world. Raw Food Meetup. You can find that on Instagram as well. So, Jamie, is there anything else you'd like to say about yourself as an introduction?
My Instagram is agelessbeauty143. And then if you're interested in the Raw Food Worldwide Meetup, it's just at Raw Food Worldwide Meetup. And we have a link in the bio with all kinds of information. So it's a really beautiful initiative that I created to spread the awareness around the raw food community. So definitely encourage people to step up as a leader in their town to spread the word, educate, bring people together, create community, and grow the raw food movement so that we can get the word out there on how great this lifestyle is.
Excellent, excellent. And I generally start off by asking, were you brought up on an alternative diet or a raw diet, or were you brought up on a more conventional diet?
Standard American diet. I grew up in an Italian American family, and the thing is that my family, they're all meat eaters, but when my mom was pregnant with me, she had a very strong aversion toward animal products. So she actually went vegan for my whole pregnancy. And that was the only time she ever, went vegan during my whole life, my whole childhood. And then when I was born, when I started to eat solid food, they tried giving me meat and I would throw up, like literally like throw up. So they took me to the doctor. They were really worried about me. The doctor was like, it's fine. She's going to be okay. She'll probably outlive everybody. So the only animal products I grew up eating was mainly just dairy. I did have some eggs and occasionally, but not often, would be some fish. So I never actually ate pork, chicken, steak, anything like that my whole life. So I consider myself vegetarian, but I guess you would call it pescatarian growing up. And then my aunt got cancer when it was around 20 years ago. She was diagnosed with cancer, and my mom was really in search. She was really adamant about wanting to help her find a natural cure. So she started reading all kinds of books. And my mom started reading books about, animals and how animal products affect us, but also the practices of slaughterhouses and things like that. So we ended up going vegan, me and my mom. My aunt sadly never took on this healthy lifestyle. She's still battling cancer to this day. But my mom and I, we started incorporating fasting. We started incorporating juicing and eating more, but more vegan, but not necessarily a healthy, plant-based diet. So we were still eating lots of breads and pastas because we were used to our traditional Italian ways. And then it wasn't until after my second child that I had yo-yoed back and forth on the vegan thing. And when I got pregnant, because I was also married to somebody who wasn't vegan, so that kind of made it difficult. After I had my daughter, I was very overweight. I was inflamed. Just I could just feel, the salt in my body. Like I was just so bloated, tired, uh, mood swings, rosacea, just dulled, dulled looking eyes. And then I found Dr. Furman, and that inspired me to go back to plant-based, except on a more healthy, nutrient dense level. A few months out, I lost like, most of the weight from my pregnancy. My eyes were glowing, my skin was glowing, my hair felt soft and healthy. And then maybe 10 months after that, I found Annette Larkins, so I did Dr. Furman's, healthy lifestyle, really enjoyed it. Found Annette Larkins, and that was the first time I ever heard of the raw food lifestyle. So yeah, I was 26 at the time. And I was so inspired. And really what stood out to me was more the anti-aging benefits of it. Because I feel like, I was already feeling really healthy, eating a healthy plant-based cooked diet, but I wanted to take it to another level with feeling really vibrant and glowing, from the inside out with beauty and just radiance. So I was like, let me give this thing a try. Let me, I threw everything out. I threw, covered over the stove, unplugged the stove. I threw the microwave out. My husband was on deployment at the time, so I had, you know, 9 months or whatever by myself, or he wasn't going to be here, so I threw everything out of the cabinets, all the processed food, everything. And that was that was life changing, honestly, because I had transformed myself physically, mentally, and spiritually once I went to that healthier vegan diet. But once I went raw, it was next level. Like I transformed even more. And then 10 years after that, I did a 4-month juice cleanse and I transformed again. And, I just kept growing younger and growing smarter and growing happier. And that's why I'm so passionate about this lifestyle.
Oh, that's excellent. And I was going to ask, when you were growing up, you were mainly vegetarian, I believe you were saying. Did you experience any health issues growing up?
Yeah, yeah, I would get sick all the time. I would get ear infections. I had impetigo. I had scarlet fever, I think 3 times. I had allergies. I had childhood asthma, constipation. I had very bad mood swings growing up with depression. I battled depression and anxiety, lethargy. I had no motivation, no drive, just really tired all the time, couldn't focus. Like I just felt like I couldn't focus on conversation. Like, I would start talking to somebody and it was very hard. I had the worst brain fog. I think that was probably the biggest thing, the relief that cleared up. Oh, and my vision too. My vision is now 2020, so my vision
Oh.
improved as well. Yeah.
And it was your aunt, was it, from what I gather, it was your auntie's cancer diagnosis that made you and your mom start changing your diet. Is that right?
That was the catalyst. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's
What,
amazing how something positive can come out of something, painful like that.
and what made you go in that direction? Was she already aware of the link of diet with health and stuff like that?
My aunt.
You, your your mom or you?
Well, my mom, she just started buying all these books and reading, and then she got very inspired and she started getting it really into health and she started juicing and I was living at home at the time. So she would read to me. She would read to me about health. She would read to me about slaughterhouses. She would, and we would sit there in the living room and my mom we would just read these books together. and we started juice. She would juice every morning. She'd bring me juice, and like she was cooking for me, so it really made it easy
Sure.
to go, to transition because I was young at the time. It's not really like I was making my meals. I think it was probably 18 or something, still living at home, and yeah, so she did all the cooking and she juiced. I'm like, okay, she's reading this to me. It makes sense. I don't have to make the food. She's making it for me. So, yeah.
And did you experience benefits even with the first changes that you were making?
Yes, because I took out the dairy, even though I was still eating gluten, just taking out the dairy and the eggs and the fish itself what had a very big impact on me. And I did start to lose weight. My skin started to clear up. I really had bad rosacea my whole life and bloating in my face. And that was the biggest thing that I noticed was the swelling went down in my face. And transitioning to not having to put makeup on my skin. So that was one of my big motivators too, was I just wanted to have healthy, glowing skin without needing to cover it up with makeup. I wanted to be beautiful from the inside out.
Right, right. And you came across Dr. Furman. Was that a book or was that an event or how did that happen?
I found him, he was doing his PBS thing years ago, 13 year or yeah, 12, 13 years ago. It was 13 years, 14 and saw him on PBS. He was doing that 30-minute talk that he does talking about his nutritarian lifestyle and talking about toxic hunger and true hunger and talking, he's a strong believer of not using, or he's low fat too. So even though, sorry, clearing my throat, even though his diet is not fully raw, he had a strict 6-week plan. And there was, you could choose to have no grains. So, I think I'm getting a little off topic of your question. I found him on TV, bought the book, and that's basically what,
Yeah.
I was so inspired. I read the whole book in less than a week.
What do you think about him now and some of his ideas? Is it your
I
opinion?
don't follow, yeah, I don't follow him now. I feel like he came into my life to inspire me for a purpose and a reason. And the things that stood out to me most, I have no idea what he talks about now, even though some of his, plan wasn't fully raw, it was a lot raw.
Yeah.
He talked about, eating fruit in the morning for breakfast and then, spacing it out, making sure you fast at least 3 hours between each meal, no grazing in between to allow your body to finish digesting, no salt, no added sugar. And, um, he focused on whole foods, so big salad. And he incorporated a lot of beans, so I did find that the beans did help my digestive system. And then I liked the steamed veggies at night because I felt like I was able to get a lot of veggies. But that was before I found out I didn't even know what a green smoothie was at the time. And then a friend of mine was like, you could throw spinach in your smoothie. And I was like, you could mix spinach with fruit. It was such a foreign thing to me. I didn't even know you could do that. So yeah, I started incorporating more greens into my diet through smoothies and juices and stuff.
Excellent, excellent. Um, and I imagine you might have mentioned it, but I imagine there was benefits you got just from the new. I think he called it a nutritarian diet at some point. I don't know what he calls his diet now, but did you see further changes there now, I would guess?
100%, 100%. Yes. And especially even the whole time, since I first went vegan with my mom up until I found Dr. Furman, when I followed Dr. Furman's nutritarian lifestyle, I saw more benefits than I had in 10 years of eating vegan because he was focusing on high nutrient foods, lots of greens, lots of fruits, minimal amount of nuts, minimal amount of fats and avocados, no salt. So just, I mean, when I first started and I cut out the salt in my diet for the first time ever, I lost 8 pounds in 1 week just from not eating salt. And it was all inflammation, like all water weight that I was just holding on to. So that was huge. That was a huge benefit.
That's an interesting one that people don't realize is that even just cutting out salt has a big effect on people's weight and their appearance as well, I imagine, because of the amount of water that you're retaining, which
I
is
try to tell people, yeah, who are losing weight, like the first thing you should do is cut the salt out. That's the first thing. They don't want to let it go though.
I think someone told me about like if you want to win a weight loss contest, then just cut out salt or something,
Mm.
and you'll lose more weight than anyone. Um, when did it? So going raw then, why did you take it a further step? And you said Annette Larkins, was that YouTube or a TV show, or how did that happen? And where did you go
I
from
saw,
there?
yeah, I saw a clip of her on the news. I don't remember where I saw this clip. I don't know if I saw it on TV or if I saw it on, social media or something, but it was like a 2-minute clip of her on the news. And it said this woman found the fountain of youth and she was talking about the water that she drinks and she grows her own food and everything. And I was like, wow, this is next level. And the fact that she was in her 60s and she looked like she was in her 30s really sat with me because I was like, okay, we can slow down, even reverse aging. And if I start now, I want to look and feel like her when I'm in my 60s, 70s, and 80s. So it was really just a wanting to start now so that later on in my life, I'm not dealing with cancer, diabetes,
Sure.
osteoporosis, sitting in a hospital in pain. I don't want to have back pain. I want to feel good. I want really just a good quality of life. I want to enjoy this life. I don't want to be in pain or suffer.
Yeah, yeah. And how did you find more books to read, or how did you go to
Oh,
the raw direction, and how did you start with that? What did that look like?
okay. So first I bought Annette Larkin's little pamphlet. She has like a little book. I bought that, read it. She's really big on sprouts. So I started sprouting. And then I found Victoria Buchenko, who she has this book called 12 Steps to Raw. That was the first time I ever correlated cooked food with being an addiction. So as I was reading 12 Steps to Raw, I was going through the steps. No, I just got a little bit of an echo. Yeah, I was reading this 12 Steps to Raw and going through trying to end my food addiction, which was really, really helpful. And it's such a process because we are addicted. Civilization, humans in general are addicted to cooked food. It is our biggest drug. And that's what people don't realize is they think that they're giving themselves energy and nutrition, but really all that they're doing is just numbing themselves. And that was a that was a big thing for me to get over. So I battled a lot of food addiction after that because I didn't even realize I was addicted. But once I started going raw and I started transitioning, the cravings started coming up, the emotions started coming up for me to process. Everything I had ever buried or numbed with cooked food my entire life was coming up to the surface. So it actually propelled my spiritual path as well. And then I found Marcus and Kara. I found Fully Raw Christina. All these big influ Dan the Life Regenerator, all these people really, really inspired me. I would watch YouTube videos. Um, let's see, I don't know if I read any more books on Raw, but I would watch lots of videos. And, I was the only one though. I didn't have anyone. I was by myself. I didn't have anyone in my family. I didn't have any friends, no one in my town. I didn't know what a meetup was. I didn't have any meetups to go to. I lived in a small desert town when this was happening. So I didn't live in LA back 13 years ago when all the raw food restaurants were booming. And I had wanted to move down here. And I was like, I need to be in LA. This is where so many people are eating raw. Like, I need to be with people near me. And, 13 years later, when I finally moved to Los Angeles, all the raw food restaurants are closed down. There's no presence here in the raw food community. And I was like, I need to do this. I need to revive the raw food community. If we don't have it here in LA, like, where is it in the rest of the world? So that's pretty much what, initiated the raw food movement too.
So you started off on this path 13 years ago, is that right?
The raw journey was 13 years ago. My vegan journey started 20 years ago. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Um, the I think I was something else I was gonna ask, but firstly, I suppose, so the benefits of going raw then, from what you did, but I'm kind of curious as to what kind of a raw diet you did because you were following maybe Victoria Botenko and Marcus and Cara, different people. These are all kind of different ideas, maybe, and I'm wondering, how did you start this process of going raw? What did it look like in the early days? And did it change over time?
It's definitely changed. It started with a lot of gourmet food, started with hours and hours in the kitchen with a dehydrator. I had a family to cook for at the time, and it was just daunting being in the kitchen all the time. And then I went raw and I was having fun with that, but then I was still having to cook for my family and make all this raw stuff. So over the years, I've really gotten more simple smoothies, juices, fruit, mono meals, salads. Sometimes I will have a dehydrated flax cracker that my husband will make or something, but I really don't even bother with the dehydrator anymore just because I just don't feel like it. I try to just
Sure.
keep things as simple as possible and as least time consuming as possible because, you know,
Yeah,
I don't know. I'd rather be using that time to create or build or connect or have experiences than just sitting in the kitchen making things. That's why I don't really post a lot about food actually, because I don't make anything interesting, like I'm never posting recipes or, videos of like, hey, look at this juice, because I'm just like, I keep it so simple.
how did you feel on the kind of gourmet raw diet?
I definitely feel better because when I first went raw, I was more gourmet, and then when I did the juice, I did more fruitarian I did fruitarian for a year and a half, and I felt a lot better and cleaner and lighter. But then I started incorporating more salads and a little bit more higher fats and more nuts into my diet. So yeah.
What would be your typical kind of a day nowadays with it?
Typical, let's say, yeah. I don't juice as much as I should, but I definitely like a good smoothie. I will make a smoothie or I will make a salad. I'm really loving microgreens. And I do eat olive oil. Like I like a little drizzle of olive oil on my salad. And I just put some seasoning on there. So microgreens, I'll put some cucumbers, tomatoes. Um, yeah, and then I really sometimes only eat 2 meals a day. Sometimes I'll do three, but it's usually I fast a lot. I like fasting. So like yesterday I fasted 22 hours and and then I had dinner and then I started fasting again. I haven't even eaten yet today. So I'm really big on fasting. Yeah,
Okay. Um,
yeah.
so is it you would you say it's not quite consistent how you eat? It kind of changes day by day or do you have a particular pattern?
No, no pattern. Yeah, it's just intuition. I'm an intuitive eater. Like some days I wake up, I want something more higher fat. Some days I want nothing but oranges, and I'll just eat like a whole bag of oranges. Um, yeah.
Do you think there's any
Yeah, so,
particular
like some days I'll eat salt, some days I won't touch salt. It just depends.
do you think there's any particular reason for that?
Um, I mean, there's probably a lot of reasons. It probably has to do with my lifestyle, my schedule being sporadic, social settings. I could be emotionally eating some days. I think I still battle from food addiction. So if I'm feeling cravings, I'm definitely going to want some higher fat or I'm going to want some salt in my diet.
Mhm.
Um, yeah.
What what benefits then have you had from the raw diet? Why did you keep going with it? And why? Because it is difficult for people starting off in your situation. You were on your own, I believe. Why did you keep going with it, and how did you stay inspired?
The thing is that I have not been 100% raw the whole time. I've battled these bad cravings, and I went through. I had to heal mental illness and things like that. I had anxiety and depression and all kinds of things like that. So it was hard for me. I was married to somebody who wasn't vegan, let alone raw. My kids don't eat raw or vegan. It was hard. So I would battle back and forth. And every time I would eat raw, I'd go a period of time eating raw where I felt amazing. I had tons of energy, skin was glowing, my clothes fit beautifully. I had, fat on my body. And then if I would fall back to cooked food, the weight started coming on, the brain fog would start coming back, my moods would start yo-yoing back and forth. Like would have this type of hormonal imbalance and things like that. So I was able to really witness the changes happening in my body. And then not only that, but like when I eat, the cleaner I eat, I can see it in my skin, in my eyes. It's just like this glowing aura about me. And when I eat cooked food, I feel heavy. I feel like there's a dark energy in my aura. And I also feel heavy energetically and just physically, less energy. And I start to see more inflammation.
Sorry,
Yeah, I can actually,
it's
it's okay.
working again now. Sorry, Jamie.
That's okay. I can actually Yeah, I can actually see myself starting to age if I go back to eating cooked food. And if I go back to eating raw for a year and a half or 2 years or something like that, um, I literally watch myself in the mirror growing younger. I can see wrinkles disappearing. My face starts like literally lifting. It's amazing. So to me, that's motivation right there. And like I said, I want good quality of life as I get older. So no matter how hard it is, just seeing that end result and remembering my why is enough to keep trying no matter how many times I fall off or how many times I struggle or whatever it is. I get back on and I'm like, I got to do this. I got to do this for me because I love myself, and
Yeah.
this lifestyle is a form of self-love.
Yeah, you mentioned about some emotional processing and stuff that happened as a result of going raw, I believe. Can you explain a little bit about that and what that experience was like and how you dealt with that, perhaps?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I probably had it was a lot of trauma that came up from my childhood, and it was, I don't know how to explain it, but I felt as I was cleaning my body, I just felt as I was physically detoxing, I was also emotionally and mentally detoxing. So as things were leaving my body, I could feel the trauma like coming out, and I had to go through that. I had to actually feel what I had been suppressing for so long. So it was almost, I would have days where I couldn't get out of bed, not because I was physically ill or having physical detox symptoms. For me, it was everything was emotional, everything was addiction. So even now, I never feel like I truly get hungry. I feel like when I feel hunger, it's really just this need inside of me of like, I need something. It's this emotional, craving, this hunger. But uh, yeah, it's always like purely emotional. But I don't know if that's coming from a female perspective. I'm not sure if you went through something like that during your transition.
Well, the one thing I would say, I did notice that one thing I noticed the connection with is I found it quite easy to under eat when I started off on a raw diet. So there were days, maybe a number of days in a row where I didn't really know what I was doing and I didn't eat enough. And it didn't really realize I was not eating enough. I was just eating, what I wanted or whatever, what felt right. And that would lead me to feeling depressed. Like that would actually lead me to
Mm.
feeling obviously like no energy and down, and I would start to get a little bit of a depressed feeling or kind of like don't really like no motivation feeling. So I've noticed that in myself, but usually, and then what goes along with that is a sort of like questioning my life, question like, is why am I doing this? Is this right? Is that right? And all these kind of questions.
Yeah.
And I've started to learn now, for me, that's a sign that that's sometimes a sign that I've not eaten a lot that day, or I've not, maybe I've been very active the last few days or something, or whatever. I've not slept enough, or I start to realize there's certain things that trigger that. But the one you're talking about with the emotional sort of I don't know traumas or whatever it is coming up. I'm not sure exactly if I experienced that. I actually would say that it was more of a joyful emotional experience
Hmm.
for me generally.
Hmm.
And a lot of people going raw at first they experience the kind of don't know if you've had this, but like the feeling of like waves of gratitude sort of a feeling, or your heart opening feeling. Some people have had that going raw. So I had some really positive stuff going on, and for me, I actually think that for me to bring up the emotions takes more effort. So maybe I like
Well,
maybe,
it's funny
maybe
because
they're more pushed
yeah,
down for me or something.
yeah, the feeling that you're talking about, like that joy, that inner peace, I feel that now.
Right.
But, and I did feel a lot of joy when I first transitioned, but there were times when it was very dark and it was very
Right.
hard. I had to really push past, like, this chatter in my mind, like this battle. I was battling myself. It
Right.
was it was like my ego was dying, and it was trying to cling on, like, don't kill me, and I had to have this willpower
Uh,
over these deep, intense cravings. But now I feel this beautiful, like, heart open. I feel so much compassion for life. I feel
yeah.
so connected to people. It's funny because when I was younger, I never had a thing with animals. I never had a connection with pets or animals. And I didn't eat meat, but when people would eat it, it didn't bother me. If I saw it, like, I didn't correlate, this is an animal. But now it's like something has clicked or shifted in my consciousness since going raw, that I feel so deeply and I feel so much love and compassion that I look at a child or an animal and my heart just melts in a way that it never did before eating this lifestyle or living this lifestyle.
Amazing. Why do you think that is?
I think that, well, I think that I think like animal products are heavy energetically,
Hmm.
and I think it lowers our vibration maybe in a sense. And especially if you're eating, meat. I mean, dairy is probably this carries the same energy, but definitely meat, 100% that the fear and the trauma is, that adrenaline is pumping through their blood at the moment of death. They can hear the
Yeah.
screams of other animals. It's a bloodbath, so it's like you're ingesting that. Like, I'm I'm to the point where I'm so sensitive to, like, I don't even want somebody preparing my food if they're having a bad day or they're fighting with their husband, or you know what I mean? Because I don't even want to put that kind of energy into me. But then to put an animal who literally suffered it, like, you're carrying that fear and that trauma and that adrenaline inside of you. And I think karmically it's just not healthy for us to be in our energy. Um, and I think when we clean our body and our body's running better, and I feel like that opens up our energy channels as well. I feel like this lifestyle actually brings us closer to spirit. We feel more connected to nature because we're getting close to nature,
Right.
right? We're really getting close to nature. And most raw foodists that I know, once you start eating raw, you want to go outside, you want to be in the sun more, you want to be out in nature, you want to be less in the matrix. because it's almost like when you're eating cooked food or animal products, you're living in this illusion, like this
Yeah.
veil is over you. And then when you stop eating that and you're eating living foods with life force energy, it's like the veil is lifted and you can see past the illusion.
And I always think that when I'm speaking to someone who's uh, still eats a conventional diet, I always think that if they start to ask me about this diet and I start to talk to them about it and explain it to them, I feel like it's going to blow their mind and they're going to have that veil lifted, so to speak. And it worries me, like, 'cause I think some people aren't ready for that maybe, but actually people don't really see it most of the time when I'm talking to them. They don't really get what I'm talking about. So,
I
but
think because well, like this, okay, this lifestyle, eating this way, cleaning my body has raised my consciousness to where I can really see things, I can really understand things. And like, yes, we're all human. Yes, we're all equal, but there are some humans that are evolving at a different rate than other humans. Like, you can tell when you're having a very intelligent, open-hearted, loving conversation with somebody, um, who's also reciprocating the same, as opposed to somebody who just cannot see at your level. They can't feel at your level, they don't feel love at your level. They can't consciously understand the world how you understand it. So it makes you smarter too. I really feel like I've gotten a lot smarter.
I feel like my brain works in a different way, and like I started to think about things totally different as well. Yeah. So with with that, like, how did your raw? You talked about you were into some of I guess the YouTube influencers, Dan the Man, Christina, Marcus and Cara, people like that. How did your raw journey go? It sounds like you did it mostly on your own, but did you go to any events, retreats? Were you did any coaching? Were you part of any courses? Did you get any additional help like that, or was it mostly your own uh your own learning along the way?
Just trial and error on my own. Yes, I was raising my ch young children, for the past however many years. I had very young kids when I first transitioned. Now they're teenagers, but I'm here in LA now on a mission, so I haven't really been traveling or anything. But no, I didn't get to go to any raw food meetups. I never got to go to any um, fruit festivals, and I did go to some raw food restaurants here. I went to, I think it's called Revolution before they closed down. I went there and I was just excited. And I would try to visit anywhere if I went back home to Florida, I would look up all the raw food restaurants, all the raw vegan restaurants. I stopped by Hippocrates. I went and had lunch at Hippocrates. So that was a really big thing that inspired me, was to go to these raw food restaurants. But now a lot of them are closing down.
Yeah, that's really interesting thing to mention because there was a like I mean it's before my time as well in the raw movement, but there was a point of time where raw food became a bit of a buzz. At some point, at least that's what it seems like to me. And the concept of superfoods was kind of along with that, and all of these kind of raw food concepts were maybe in the press more. And as you're saying, like there was these raw food cafes that kind of popped up, not just in LA, but really all over the place. And there were raw food restaurants, obviously, in a lot of the major cities. And it is interesting that the raw movement has changed in that time. And a lot of these cafes and restaurants are not are have, well, a lot of them started to incorporate cooked food again. Maybe they always did, I'm not sure. But a lot of them did or do. Some of them are almost entirely cooked food now. And yeah, a lot of them over the years have shut down. And I was curious to know what the scene is like in LA at the moment, which was kind of in the epicenter of the raw food movement.
It's Yeah, you're right. There was a really big buzz around the raw food movement at one time, and probably even more so when Kara had her restaurant in San Francisco. I'm sure it was really booming up there too. But yeah, when I first went raw, I think I think there used to be like seven different raw food restaurants, like all in Santa Monica. It was just a really big thing. Lots of people were eating raw. I was really excited to move here. And then, I think they started closing down and then COVID probably didn't help that either. And something shifted. Something shifted in the raw food movement. And I don't know if that was the rise of the internet, like all these people going online and, now there's a lot of Facebook groups and everything like that, but there's just a lot less happening in the real world. I know that there are fruit festivals and raw food festivals and things like that, which I've never had the opportunity to go to, but yeah, it just feels stagnant. Even here in LA, I feel like everybody is just so focused on the vegan movement, vegan for the animals, and now it's not really about health here, it feels like anymore. And even all the vegan festivals, it's all vegan junk food, fried food, ice
Sure.
cream, everything. So yeah, I don't even want to go to those vegan events because I don't really even want to be around that kind of food. It's to me it's low energy, low vibration, low energy. Not judging, I don't really want to eat it.
No, that
I mean yeah, sometimes I will, but it's not really something I want to revolve my life around.
the vegan events and vegan festivals and stuff, and I've not been. I'm not going to claim to have been to like every one or whatever, but I've been to vegan events, and there is a sense they are very different than to raw food events, and
Yeah,
obviously animal activism is a much bigger focus for the vegan events, and animal activism is probably the main thing, really. And yeah, a lot of vegans are almost proudly don't care about the health aspect of the diet. And I was shocked by that when I started getting into raw and veganism about the same time. And then if I posted on a vegan group something about, isn't this great? Vegan diet helps with this health issue and all that, people would be, they didn't care sometimes and they were skeptical as well. They'd be like, yeah, you can't really trust that information and stuff like that. And I'm like, but
yeah,
this is good news about the vegan diet. Like, I don't know why people are
yeah.
so bothered about it. But then I realized, like, no, they don't. Like, a lot of people on a vegan diet are not trying to be healthy, and that was something that I didn't realize at first, I suppose.
And I see that here in LA. I see a lot of that here in LA. That's why I changed the name of my meetup group from Raw Vegan Meetup to Raw Food Movement or Raw Food Meetup, because not that we're not vegan, it's just the focus is about health.
Right.
And
Uh,
yeah, and when I said raw vegan, we have a lot of vegans who see, oh, vegan meetup, and they come and they're not into raw foods or they're not into health and they're vegan for the animals, which is fine, but that's not really what we're doing. That's not what this movement is about. So that's why I'm uniting raw foodists, raw vegans, and fruitarians all over the world. Like I want us to come together. I don't want there to be division. I want us to respect each other where we are so we can, because look, if we have the whole world against us already, if we're going at each other like this, we're just going to crumble. Like we are stronger together, like we can really grow this movement and like let's get more raw foods in restaurants and get more raw food restaurants on the menu on the map and have more fruit festivals and just
I was
like yeah.
I was looking today, right? I was looking today at um just randomly thinking about renting an like leasing an office, right? Like a small office space. And I was looking at these places that like will give you like you have one little room or something, or maybe you just have a desk. I don't know how it all works, but I was looking at these different things, and and it looked like it wasn't that expensive, right? And I was thinking, I wonder if there's any of these places that offer like not unlimited fruit, but they just have fruit all the time. Because I was thinking that would make it totally make sense for me financially to like to like find a place that had like an unlimited fruit bar or something like that.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if that exists, but then I would just then it would totally make sense for me to have to move into a place like that or have a place like that. But like yeah, my impression with that era of the raw food thing, where there was a bit of a buzz around it, all these restaurants started. Um, and there was a restaurant in my country for a short while, and there was festivals, there was a newsletter and stuff like that before my time, and there was people that kind of gained a bit of fame, like David Wolf was a famous raw food guy at the time, maybe still is to some degree now in others. But my impression of it is that really plant-based as a concept kind of took over. I don't know where it's at now, but um, it seems like raw food was a bigger part of um was kind of bigger than almost veganism at that point as a
Yeah,
concept.
yeah.
And certainly
Mm.
bigger than the idea of plant-based, which has come later. And that's kind of taken over all the plant-based thing. And
Well, and I'll tell you, it's the criticism in the vegan community that is pushing people to go to this plant-based title. To me, that's what I'm getting here in Los Angeles. Nothing against, vegans or whatever, but um, there's a lot of judgment and criticism in the vegan community, and it's making people not want to label themselves as vegans. So people are saying I'm raw foodist.
hmm hmm
I'm getting a lot of that from people.
well, I always think it's funny, like I kind of forget I'm a vegan by default. I kind of not that I don't want to be, but I forget about it because I'm never asking questions like, is this vegan? I'm not looking at ingredients. I was thinking about that. So everyone that's a vegan is constantly sort of, is this restaurant vegan? Is this vegan? What's in this? And I'm rarely doing that. I don't you don't have to ask if an apple's vegan or whatever, or it would be weird if
Yeah,
it wasn't.
yeah.
But yeah, so I and I think as well, like the raw food movement as well was kind of for a time it was, and I guess maybe that's coming back again though a little bit now, is that there was people that the leaders of the raw food movement were kind of selling supplements and superfoods and and maybe a diet that wasn't really that sustainable for people because it was, you know, suggesting that people had all these superfoods and stuff and buy all this stuff from the
It
web.
gets expensive. Yeah, it gets very expensive.
Yeah, so yeah, but the whole fruit-based thing is happening. I think 80-10-10 and Doug Graham's a big part of that. And it seems like the idea of eating more fruit has become more of the norm now. And that message has not really hit mainstream at all yet. There's more people interested in it and it keeps growing, but I think that idea is still going to have its day of like a fruit-based diet as being an evolution, and I don't know when that'll happen or why or how that'll happen, but I'm fairly sure it will happen because it's a really simple idea, and that's the same with like raw. Raw was a simple idea, like as long as it's raw, it's healthy. That's kind of what the idea was basically. Um, and vegan is fairly simple idea, but this idea of a fruit-based diet, I think, or eating more fruit is is another thing that I think at some point that's going to catch on. I don't know. I guess it'll just happen when it happens, but uh,
Well, that's why I'm really adamant about these meetups because even though at the meetup, we accept everyone where they are in their journey, we have some people who are just curious, who are not raw. We have some people who are high raw. We have some people who are fruitarian, strict fruitarian. We have other people who they eat more gourmet raw. So, but the funny thing is that when people come to the meetup, they just bring fruit. It doesn't matter where they are, they bring fruit. And it always turns into a potluck or a fruit luck by default. So I think creating these events all over the world is going to attract people to see like that we can eat simply, we can eat close to nature. And I think that we just have to show people that it's possible.
yeah, I had a meetup. I kind of still have a meetup. It's not very uh, regular at all, but for a while I was putting more effort into it, and I found that there's a number of funny things I found with having a raw food meetup. And one of them was that sometimes no one would eat much. And a lot of people would bring fruit. And this is probably not the case in other places, I don't know, but a lot of people would bring fruit. And then you would literally have people that came to the meetup that would say, oh no, I'm fasting today, or like I'm intermittent fasting, I've already stopped eating for the day. Um, Others would say like they'd already eaten or whatever. And then sometimes if it was like someone had made a raw meal or a salad or something for someone, it's like that's maybe not raw enough for them on some level, or it wasn't right, or it had something dehydrated in it. And then the people that are new to it are kind of like looking at this fruit going, what do I do with this? Like, am I meant to eat?
This happens at ours too. That's so funny. The exact thing.
What is this stuff? And you're like, you eat, we're gonna eat this. This is what we're doing. And then I would find like I was the only person eating, and everyone else, no one else is eating in them. And then literally, there was a guy one time, and he goes, "I brought some raw chocolate. Does anyone want some?" And everyone was like, that made sense to people to eat the chocolate, and or
Wow.
if you made nice
Wow.
cream, that kind of made sense to people. Like it was, it was funny. It was a funny.
I think that people have to go through a transition process, and I think, the gourmet raw foods is an okay way to go if you're trying to transition. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. That's why we have a raw food restaurant that comes as a vendor to our meetups. Sometimes they didn't come last time, but they've got the gourmet desserts and pastas, kelp noodle pastas, and um, nut-based pizzas and things like that. So, but we still have a huge fruit left. We still have tons of fruit all over the
Yeah.
blankets, but we also have that. So we're eating both, and people who come and they're just curious. It's nice because they get to try that and they're like, oh, this is raw, okay. But then it's like they could start eating the gourmet. They keep coming, they eat some fruit, then it's like it's a journey. And I think they taste it, they get, they have a little bit of raw chocolate, it's okay, like they get excited, they come back another time, then they try a long in or some kind of fruit they've never tried before. And it's just planting little seeds for people too.
Yeah. So I mean, when did you start the meetup, or did you take it over, or how did that happen? And how did you start meeting people and all that kind of stuff?
My husband and I moved here right before COVID and everything shut down. We didn't get to make any friends. Everything was closed. There was no events happening. It was really, really hard here in Los Angeles. I feel like we were in the epicenter, besides New York City, the epicenter of this matrix illusion in this.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was just crazy here. There was tanks going down the street, like riots, fires. It was just a crazy time to be living in here in Los Angeles. So we didn't really get to connect and make friends, especially in this lifestyle. So I did try to do one meetup during COVID, but I really only invited a couple people that I knew who weren't raw. So I was like, it's okay. I was like, maybe people aren't interested. And then a year went by and my husband's like, we should actually start a meetup. So I think I just posted a flyer on Instagram and I said, hey, I'm going to do a raw food meetup if anybody wants to come. I had 9 people show up and I didn't know one of those people. So they were all new connections. And then I started the actual meetup group on meetup.com. This was last summer. We now have 360 people in the meetup group. And
That's unbelievable.
then, yeah, it's crazy. And then I had the idea to do the worldwide meetup. I mean, it's just grown so fast. Like the last meetup we had 50 people. We had restaurant vendor that comes. We had 3 other vendors that came, with health products and stuff. Um, we had a pig. We have like a little mascot that comes to all of our meetups. It's a cute little pig named Pork Chop, and we had a guest speaker. We had an acro yoga workshop. So we try not to, like, we're all here uniting on the fact of health and raw food, but it's not really our focus. Our focus is community connection. We have lots of activities, for people to do, like especially with the guest speaker, and then people can ask questions. So I always like to have a guest speaker, somebody sharing their story or knowledge. And I had the idea to do the worldwide meetup. And this was profound because this has never, ever been done before in history. A worldwide raw food meetup. And I didn't know where it was going to go, how big it was going to grow. I was thinking maybe we'll get 5 or 6 cities around the world. And to me, that would have been really great. But we ended up having 60 hosts, 60. That's incredible. And I think we only had 6 weeks since I first announced it to
Yeah.
when we actually did the worldwide event. And in that 6 weeks, we had 60 people sign up to host raw food meetups. I was running the whole thing by myself, getting everybody's flyer, like creating a spreadsheet. I didn't even know what I was doing. I just had this idea. So as people are messaging me every single day, I was like, oh my gosh, I was getting so tired of writing the same thing over and over to people. I was like, I need to put a document together. I need to put a link in the bio. I need to, and then just all this stuff just started snowballing, and it was so beautiful. Everybody was sending pictures. You could see people all around the world. So it's like not only were we connecting online, but we're uniting raw foodists, raw vegans, fruitarians all over the world. We're like, having these little meetups, and then, I have my meetup, but how can I connect to the meetup in Sydney, Australia, and then connect to London, and, how can we all unite? So,
Yep.
oh God, just seeing it is like, it's just so amazing. And now we have our next one is going to be June 29th. I really think we'll probably get at least 100 cities
Wow.
and think about the vibration, the energy, because like the energy, these pockets of energy, this high vibration that we're all emanating at, like, fruit festivals, but also we feel this in our meetups. It's going to be all over the world. We're literally just spreading love out into the world, and it's just going to spread out to everyone, all in the same day.
Yes, amazing. Why do you think it's important to meet up in real life?
I think if you look at the blue zones, one of the things that helps people to live a long life is having community and connection. And it's not just any community, any connection. It is a safe community where you can feel accepted to be your full, authentic self, and you can feel loved. And that's what these meetups are doing. It's not just about food, it's about creating community and creating a safe place for people to grow and to thrive and to explore. I mean, to me, the raw food diet is a journey of self-discovery. So when people come to these meetups, it's like it's okay wherever you're at, like we love you, we accept you, and we're here to hold your hand while you grow. So I think it's something special, like really hugging people and making eye contact and feeling their presence and their aura and their energy. And we all are such on a high vibe. Like I'm telling you, I'm high for days after these events. Like days. I'm like, oh my God, and we're just having fun, and we're doing yoga, and we're in the grass and soaking up the sun, and we're right by the beach. And it just feels so good to be around people without drama, without gossip, like just to be around good high vibe people who also have similar interests and values.
That's amazing. And is your group anyway connected with, there was the LA Fruit Luck group, I think, that was um, Evan Rock started a group years ago, because that's what inspired me to go on Meetup when I first did it, was Evan Rock had a meetup in LA. And then he left and maybe someone else took it over. But I don't know, is it a totally different group? It's not the same people at all, or has anyone mentioned that at all?
No, and before I started my meetup, I actually had messaged, I think he has a group on Meetup or Facebook or something, because I had always wanted to go to Evans. He would post videos about it, and I was like, oh, I just want to get down to LA. I want to go to Evans meetups. I never got to meet him, never got to go to his meetup, his Fruit Lux. And I think I posted in the Facebook group, and it was just crickets, like I would post in these raw food groups, and I'm like, who wants to meet up? Let's do a meetup. And like there's no interaction, there's no
Yeah,
um engagement. So I'm like, I just got to do this myself. And I'm glad that I'm doing it, because I feel like I have this innate talent to instill excitement and enthusiasm in people. And I feel like that's what's really, you know, I don't know, creating this fun buzz around this meetup right now, and the worldwide meetup too, to be honest with you.
can
So
can you maybe give some tips then on how should someone start a meetup, and what are your tips for success with it?
yeah, so definitely definitely keep it simple. Don't stress yourself out about it. I always tell people a meetup is two or more people, and you can always grow from there. So don't feel like you have to have this big, huge, extravagant event right off the bat. And definitely you have to promote. So you have to create some sort of an event page for people to sign up, or have like a group where people can, feel like they can connect online in between the actual meetup so they stay connected, they can communicate with one another, whether that be a group chat on Instagram or a group on Facebook or a meetup.com group or something where, you can bring the people together, not just in person, but online as well. Because if it's just in person, it's going to die out. And if it's just online, it's going to die out. We need both, really. That's the age that we live in today. And that's what's really, really building community, especially globally. And I think,
I think you're absolutely right about that.
yeah,
What you just
yeah.
said there, we need both because it frustrates me that there are people with tens of thousands of followers, hundreds of thousands, even millions of followers, and they're not doing a meetup and they're not doing events really or festivals or anything. And a lot of people in the raw food movement, it's like they're also a lot of people go, I want to find community. Like that's what a lot of people say, right? Um, and their solution to that is they think that means I need to go to Thailand or something or Bali or somewhere, and like that's where all the raw food people are. It's not really true. The raw food people are all over the place. But um, yeah, I don't get that why some people are hiding away online. Like, and because I've been to so many events and loved them so much and had such a great time, it just confuses me so much that people have avoid that and avoid meetups and almost I almost feel like some people prefer the control they have of depicting a certain thing that they want to be online, and they are not so keen to interact with people in real life because it's maybe different or something like that than what they want to portray. I don't know exactly. But I do say to people like people are there's a lot of people that are doing one thing in online and are maybe not quite doing the same thing in real life, and it can be quite interesting. So sorry, I love the fact you said that.
No, I love that. And I love that you are doing your festival and you have a community online, which is, I mean, that's great. You're doing the thing. I think we need more of that. I wish you're right. I wish we had more of these big influencers helping to contribute or at least attending the events.
Well, I think that the Woodstock Festival is one of the first of the kind of fruit-based raw events that came along. And there used to be a bunch of raw food festivals in the US when there was that raw moment. Um, and Woodstock came along, and it was Michael Arnstein, and his whole thing was this lifestyle is great, but there's no one else to share it with, or like I don't know anyone else is doing it, or I'm not around a lot of people in real life doing it, and went to a smaller retreat and loved that, and then wanted to do it with more people, and the and but he kind of lost his momentum, I guess, and all that. But the festivals, I would say to people, are can be quite a big project and quite a tough thing to do in some ways. And some people have come to me and said, "Can you give me advice on doing a festival or a retreat or something?" And I've ended up saying to some people, you should just do a meetup, or not just do a
Mm.
meetup, but you should do a meetup.
Start with a meetup.
Start
Yeah.
with a meetup at least so that you've got some experience, so that you develop a network, so that you can start contacting people, so you can see if you like doing these events in the raw community and see how it feels. And it's some people have taken that advice and others have pushed on and did their own thing. And honestly, I think that a meetup is often when people are looking for community, this is a great way. I think something I was probably made a mistake with, Jamie, is mine were like I didn't have a regular pattern to them. So like it could be every week for a while, then it would be a few months off, and then it would be I tried to keep it going and stuff, but I think I was trying to do it every week, and maybe that was too many. Maybe every month is a better sort of schedule. What?
Yes, I do feel that. I feel like the excitement really buzzes around when you have a little bit of space in between because they're like, oh, it's not going to happen for another month. I have to get to this one. And you give people time to plan too. So,
Yep,
yeah,
yep.
yeah.
So how can people contact you about that? You're on Instagram. Do you just want to repeat where you're at and where they can find out more?
Yes. Okay. Hi, guys. Okay. So my personal Instagram is agelessbeauty143. And it's not I just want to clarify. Like, I'm not saying like I myself look at myself like I'm ageless beauty. Like we're all ageless beauty, and especially on this lifestyle is ageless beauty. You know, that's how I feel about it. And then for the Raw Food Worldwide Meetup, it's exactly that. It's just at Raw Food Worldwide Meetup. And if you would like to start a meetup in your city, I am here to help you at no charge. I am very, very passionate about growing this lifestyle. So I will get on the phone with you. I'll help you. I'll guide you. Um, I have a weekly call, connect call, Q&A for answering any kind of questions. But it's really, really important to create community. And if no one else is doing it in your town, you can be the one to do it. And if you feel like there's no one in your town that's raw, I honestly don't believe that. And even if there isn't, that doesn't mean that people wouldn't be interested. If you built it, they will have the opportunity to come and attend.
Yeah, I mean that's one of my biggest uh, things is when people say they don't know anyone in their area that's raw, or they're the only person in their country or their city that is raw, and it's not true. It really, really isn't true. There's just not spaces for raw foodists to meet each other. And the other thing I would say is not all people want to go to events and meet other people. So I had people that would turn up at my meetups. They were long-term experience with a raw diet, knew about the meetup maybe for years and hadn't come along. And then other people who had almost no interest in the meetup would come along just to see what was going on. And and it's always been frustrating for me because it's like I don't know about yourself. I imagine you might be the same, but I didn't start the meetup. I started the meetup when I was quite new to Raw, and I was sort of like, I want to, find the experienced people that can teach me. Like I wasn't trying to be a teacher or a leader or anything like that. I was just kind of doing my part to facilitate the meetup, and hopefully, like the 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 people would come that knew what they were doing or whatever. And gradually, I started to realize that probably a lot of those people didn't come along or weren't or whatever, or that it was a lot of new people that were looking for advice and stuff. And I was thinking, this is I didn't expect to be the most experienced person, at the meeting or whatever.
And now, now look where you are.
Well, yeah,
Now look,
I
yeah.
ended up doing more events in the festival and stuff, and now I've kind of got to a point where I'm more comfortable with giving people advice or guidance, or I was very much not trying to be a leader or a coach or anything, especially early on, because I just I saw others that had started the same time as me, maybe 6 months, were 6 months into their raw journey or something, or maybe a year, weren't very consistent with it, but started to go online, started to gain an audience, and we're starting to do coaching and stuff, and starting to teach other people and making money doing that. And they became interested in the whole lifestyle of like uh, being a nomad and traveling or whatever, and making money online and kind of escaping the normal 9 to 5 and all that stuff, which is great. I mean, it's nice that that happened to people, but in my mind, I was like, these people they don't really know what they're doing yet, and they're giving advice to people, and that felt bad to me, and I started to see all of that stuff as a bit of a bad thing. So I kind of personally held back from trying to be a teacher or a leader, even at my own events and even at the festival. I didn't teach a class for many years because I just thought I wasn't in that place yet to do that and needed more experience. but it has been a problem in our raw community that a lot of people have come and gone and have been raw for a while or vegan for a while, maybe make claims about what they're doing or how they're doing it, and then go back to eating all sorts of junk or like right back to standard diet. And you're like, well, how does that happen that the person goes right back to the standard diet? Like, um, and also I've had like speakers at events and stuff that are no longer vegan, and you're like, they really shouldn't have been teaching people how to do this. They shouldn't have been
Yeah.
presenting themselves as an expert and all that. Um,
Yeah.
but that's see to me this whole thing is that I think very few people I I like the 100% raw vegan diet. Like I don't push other people to do it that much or like it's certainly not something like if you don't do this, you're not my friend or I'm not very militant about it. But I really like when people are 100% raw and really stick with that and have given up cooked foods. And I think I've always tried to encourage the speakers at my festival. I try and make sure the speakers are of that way inclined. And you can kind of tell there's a sort of way they talk about the diet and a way they talk about food. And people that are still eating cooked food still say things like, a bit of healthy cooked food's okay, stuff like that. Whereas people that are raw don't really say stuff like that much. It's just not part of their consciousness that much.
Hmm.
Um, and yeah, but so the people that have kind of fully given up the addiction to cook food, that's years. Like some people think, oh, it's 3 days and you give up an addiction or thirty days. It really isn't. I don't know what your experience is, but like,
I'm still on my journey. I've done 100% raw many times, but it's been not it hasn't been easy for me. So it's a battle every day, but it's something that I continuously strive for because being 100% raw is so important to me that I will do everything in my power to make that happen. So,
I want to say something. I want to ask you this question.
mhm.
And okay, I don't know. I did my meetup and I was really like for years I was doing stuff advertising it and all sorts of like booking a room for it and there was a time I was really trying to push it and I was even calling people like people would respond to adverts. I was calling people and all this stuff. I tried a whole bunch of stuff and it just felt like it was so slow, the progress of me getting people to come to this thing. And I wasn't really offering much, to be honest. Like I didn't really have. It was just very basic meetup. But I always wondered because I've spoken to a few people that have had successful meetups, and your story of having like 50 people, I never got anywhere near 50 people at a meetup. And but even you had 9 people in the first time you did it, like with putting something on Instagram. Um, Ellen Livingston has a similar story of like having a meetup that went to like lots of people. There was Karen who was in Chicago. She she was another raw food restaurant owner, and she had a meetup that had like 90 people within a really short space of time. Like just really blew up really quick.
Wow.
And something I always had in my head, and I don't know if this would be something I'm overthinking, but I always wondered if it's better if a woman runs a raw food meetup. And that sounds maybe that sounds controversial, but I wonder like if that would have been if there was more women that would have come or something if it had been run by a woman rather than run by myself. I don't know. Do you think I'm being paranoid about that or just making that up or
I don't know what the culture is like where you are. I don't know
right.
what the women are like there. I know LA has its own culture, and we probably started with 9 people, and the last one we had 50 people because there was such a huge raw food community at some point. We're big city, so 9 people in a city of I don't even know what the population is here in LA, but that's so small compared to how many people. I don't know the city that you're living in, how big it is, and what the vegan scene is there. But it could be that women are feeling scared. I know that going and meeting, you know, a man that you've never met before online or something. It's kind of weird, because you always have like the friend or the mother, like, well, where are you going? Where's this event? Like, can you trust this person kind of thing. So that it could be, I'm wondering if you partnered with another female raw foodist, and you guys planned an event together that
Yeah,
might
I
become.
sometimes thought that like I should get not get I should see if someone would like to and I could be more of a background organizer or something. Um, but you know, and it's not just women, it's men as well. Like men don't necessarily want to come out and meet. I think I had a situation not that long ago where a friend of mine, a woman, young woman, had a book launch, and I kind of posted it vaguely on to a WhatsApp group I was in, and five men showed up to this thing from this WhatsApp, and I was thinking, if this was my book launch, not one of these guys would have showed up. I honestly didn't. There's something
Uh,
about it being a woman is like, oh, this kind of interesting or whatever. I don't know. Um,
I do feel like I have an advantage being a woman, but I don't want that to discourage
but
men from
I think yeah,
starting a, yeah.
absolutely. I think this because I mean Evan Rock had it, it was very successful as well. But I think that I think I have a perspective a little bit that this is maybe going deep, but when people lived in community more, which we don't do so much anymore, we live more separated lives, which is why people need community so much. Um, I think that within community, women played more of the role of the community organizer in some way, or the roles of like pulling the community together were maybe played more by women, and maybe that's more of a natural inclination for people to respond to in a positive way. I don't know. I've thought of these. Maybe I'm overthinking all this,
Oh,
but
that's
I've
interesting that
wondered
you
about that.
say that. Yeah, because I feel like being a woman, I feel like I'm naturally just good at nurturing, bringing people together, building community. When I was living in the desert with my ex-husband and my kids, we had a house, and I would just throw these parties. We would have 100 people in my huge half-acre backyard with a bounce house and a whole spread, and I would decorate. And I think it's just like a woman gives this homey feeling. Not saying that some
Yeah,
men can't do that, but I think generationally it's like embedded into our DNA that like the woman is the connector, like we're the ones, like, stereotypically speaking, go to the country club and make us friends for social settings. Women are the little social butterflies.
yeah. I
It's
think.
a true gift that we have. Yeah.
Have you had anyone in your meetup that have you ever had a situation where you feel someone's trying to take it over a little bit, or use it?
No, I think they just love that I'm doing the work. They just love to come have fun. They don't even
I guess I mean
know.
like more like they try and uh turn the con
Control.
could like
Oh,
maybe have a particular topic being talked about, or they want the conversation to be about something in particular, or they want to try and teach people, and maybe they're not the right person to do that yet. Any characters like that you have to deal with, like trying to control who's maybe
the
people trying to
thing,
take advantage of it.
um, I don't think so. I mean, even when I have a guest speaker, even if I don't fully align with what they say, um, I don't know, something stupid, maybe like the kind of water they drink or something is different than what I drink. Like, I'm just going to give them the space to share their knowledge. And if it resonates with people, it's fine. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But no, I don't think anybody's really
Mhm.
come in like, this trying to overtake the situation or been controlling. I think everybody's just really like fun and free spirited, like, because we're by the beach, we're all barefoot, we're eating fruit and everybody's just having a great time. And honestly, a lot of the times, like the talk is about health and diet, and then other times it's not, we're just having fun. And I think that's the thing too, is it doesn't always have to be about health. We're getting together because we have a shared common interest, but that doesn't have to be the only thing that we do too.
No, fantastic.
Yeah, I think just making it really fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, uh, I've not been to California yet, and it's a place that I feel is a place that I would like to visit, and people have said a lot about it, and the quality of the fruit there, and all this kind of stuff that I've heard about, and the raw food scene there, and so I'd love to try and make it along sometime and come to the meetup at some point.
You should come in June.
Yeah, yeah, that's an idea. Um,
Yeah.
and But I really, I've had so many friends from California and stuff, and I'd love to visit the place and see some of it. So I'm really keen to come out at some point for sure. And
I
I've
mean, it would be so cool if you came for the next worldwide meetup, June 29th. That would be amazing.
yeah, I've always heard that I've always felt there's been a few people that have had ideas of doing something in California. Like I always thought there should have been there is Woodstock on the East Coast and there should be like a California event, but it didn't quite happen yet. Um, but but that could maybe still happen at some point, and it would probably make a lot of sense, and maybe it'd even be um more popular. I don't even know. Uh, so anyway, but we there was a Canada Fruit Fest that was kind of west coast of Canada. That was maybe fairly close. Uh,
Oh, the Canada Fruit Fest? Yeah. Yeah. Well, Ted actually came to one of my meetups and I was like, I would love to build this into a retreat. He's like, I don't recommend it. I think it was a very stressful situation for him. And he talks about his fruit fest on YouTube. And I think he, says he went into like $40,000 of debt. It rained, everybody canceled, wanted refunds on their tickets. It was just like a huge mess. He did it a few years, but I could definitely see my LA meetup turning into some kind of a festival, or the worldwide meetup turning, the other festivals uniting the existing festivals in the world, like bringing the Woodstock Fruit Festival together, uniting with the UK festival, uniting with this California festival. Like, I mean, who the heck knows? So I just love the idea of us all working together, collaborating, lifting each other out, taking any kind of competition out of the equation and just building together. I think that would be the ultimate beautiful vision that I see for this movement and for the raw vegan community in general. And yeah,
yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for talking today, and I would suggest people go and check out what you're doing and come along to your meetup and maybe host your own meetup if you're interested in doing that. And
yeah,
thank you very much for joining me today. Anything you want to say before we
yeah.
finish off?
I'm just really grateful that you had me on, and it was really great talking to you, and I appreciate you very much.
Excellent. Thank you, Jamie, and thank you everyone for listening and watching. You're welcome to share this and get in touch. You can go to fruitfest.co.uk if you want to learn more about the UK Fruit Fest, fruitfest.co.uk, 26th of July to the 2nd of August if you're listening to this in 2024. And you're welcome to check out other episodes of the Love Fruit podcast. We have over 135 interviews, so you're welcome to check those out. There's a different story in each interview, a different perspective on this lifestyle. It's good to hear all these different stories, different journeys. It will give you some inspiration and help you along the way. But thank you very much, everyone, and I'll see you in the next episode of the Love Fruit podcast.
Bye.